me, Sean Capri, and welcome to We the GamerCast. It publishes on youtube.com/YumiCapri and podcast services around the globe every single Monday. Patrons get it first. Thank you guys for subscribing, for hitting the like button, for leaving a comment, for telling your mom, for telling your friend, for telling your dad, for telling your dog, for putting it on a carrier pigeon and letting it loose on into the wild, for putting it onto a flyer and spamming all the cars in your local grocery market. Does anybody call it a grocery market? I feel like, when I was a kid, I just knew Superstore and many of you know Superstore from the hit Netflix show Superstore. But if you're in Canada, there's a grocery store called Superstore. But I'm getting way ahead of myself. If you're new, here's the deal. Every week I have sweet hangs with a stranger from the internet. We talk about life and video games. And if you want to be on the show, it's you're going to have to wait until January, but you can tweet at me at Sean Capri, Sean like Connery, Capri like the pants. Let me explain. There's a lot to talk to you guys about. Holy crap. I'm in a great mood. I'm so glad you guys are here. I have scheduled the rest of December. Okay. I need to do this every once in a while. But I'm looking forward to a bit of a rest, actually. And what that means, for anybody who's taken sort of like vacation in a sort of a professional setting, anytime you take it like a vacation, it means you cram in all the vacation time you're taking off. You take all that, put that work and you put it ahead of the vacation. All right. So then you really earn it, really. So I have scheduled the rest of December. There's actually a week, in a couple weeks here, I'm going to go a Monday, a Tuesday, and a Wednesday, and then kind of just be done. And then those episodes will go up. So you will have something here on the feed, on the We the GamerCast feed, or on Patreon, patreon.com/YumiCapri. You'll have something every single week. We're not going to miss a week. I'm just going to kind of get it all done ahead of time. Unfortunately, that means I'm not going to get like a, hey, what'd you get for Christmas? How was your Christmas? Around the time Christmas happens. But that's okay. I've got those things scheduled. I feel pretty good about it. I think it's important to take a rest. My brother is coming up from Vancouver. Do you guys always say this too? Maybe it's because I'm just pretty far north in the world, on the planet. Like anytime somebody comes to visit, we say they come on up, right? Even though I guess technically Josh is coming up from Vancouver. He's more coming from the side. But in any case, really looking forward to that. We always have sweet hangs. We bust out some games of all sorts, man. And he's always it's fun to hang out with Josh because we don't get to do it all that often. And when we do, we just sort of like sit back. We drink some beers. We play some games. We just hang out, man. And he's kind of just open to like whatever. It's really fun, and so I'm looking forward to that. I'm glad he's coming up. Christmas is upon us. The holiday season is upon us. I celebrate Christmas, so I'm going to say Christmas, but of course I want to wish well to everybody who celebrates whatever they celebrate, or if you don't celebrate anything, then have a great December. And that's one of the biggest reasons that I wanted to make sure that there is content across the channels for every week. And I think I've gone back and forth on this over the years. Sometimes I'll just take a break and just go like whatever, like nobody's listening anyways. But I do think that there's some especially as time goes on, it becomes trickier and trickier. Some people have a more sort of like traditional December, like kind of like what I'm looking forward to. But sometimes people don't have anybody to visit. Some people don't have things to do. And man, I know some people listening. So I know of your situation. So I want to make sure that we want to make sure that we have stuff for you guys. I remember, not to get too far down the rabbit hole here, because we've got a show to get to, but I do remember when Bobby passed away earlier in the year, which is crazy to think we're going to come up on a year pretty soon here. But when, I was really hurting. I was really grieving and mourning the loss along with so many people, but other people were creating content, and I was really glad that was out there. It was a place for me to go and just be part of a community. So and I know that December is a hard time for some people too. So, and it is it is for many of us. So, that's really like the man, didn't expect to be kind of getting verklempt here on a Sunday afternoon as I record this. That's really the heart of it there. So hopefully that all makes sense for you guys. What else do I want to tell you about? Man, I'm just feeling like I just went on Twitch and saw a bunch of my friends kind of go live. Mitch Power at 1116, Mitch Power 1116, and Rebecca Forrest Minish just went up, and I was kind of scheduling the rest of December here. I'm like, man, there's so many people I just want to either have on the show to hang, just as an excuse to hang out, and catch up and stuff like that. But even more than that, even more than just the podcast, there's so many of you, there's so many friends, there's so many, now there's comics in my life, there's video games, there's so many things. And that can be usually I'm going to talk about this on the Pants podcast later on this week, I think. But so you should go patreon.com/YumiCapri, hear me expand on this a little bit more. Usually I would go like, oh, this sucks. There's too many things to do. That's a great thing. That is, how lucky are we that we have all these friends around us, people that we can go confide in or go play games with, or we got books to read or manga to enjoy or anime to watch or whatever, movies that like all these things. We're so lucky, and it's funny because it can very quickly turn into a negative, like, oh, that it's a bad thing. I'm feeling stressed, but man, we're very lucky. So I'm feeling just full of gratitude right now. Hopefully you guys are doing great. I'm also very, very grateful to the nearly 70 patrons at patreon.com/YumiCapri. And if you guys like the show even just a little bit, I would really appreciate you joining the Yumi Capri crew. We don't really have a name for it, but if you want to come on over, you can go to patreon.com/YumiCapri. I would love it very much. And I want to give a special thank you to our premium producers. Dallas Ford, you are amazing. You've been here for so long at the premium producer level. Thank you. Lee Navarro, I will be talking to you soon. The fearless leader of the Phoenix Overdrive Extra Life team. And Jonathan Brown, the man, I love checking in with you, my friend, the man behind the music on the Xbox Drive and the Nintendo Drive. Please check out Jonathan Brown's work at youtube.com/PMENT. Platinum producers, Robbie Bobby Miller and Trucker Sloth, you guys are incredible. And of course, our gold members, Argo, Benji Kong, Brendan Myers, Dallas Robbins, Dano, Emily O'Kelly, Foolish Fuji, Joel Brooks, Jose Jimenez, Mac Time, Marcus O'Neill, Mr. and Mrs. Nasty Boots, RJ Kern, Skinny Matt, and Xavier Reyes. You guys are incredible. I cannot believe you're all still here. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much. Man, I think one of the things that really kicked off this, like, I'm just like, my heart is just swelling with like gratitude. I feel so lucky. Of course, Josh Borboni from the from last week's episode, just that sweet special gift of the Overpower cards, man. I'll never forget it. Those little gestures. I don't know if like I don't think he realized like how wonderful that was gonna be. I told my mom about it. I told my therapist about it. It's just like amazing stuff, man. We are so lucky to have this community. So let's meet somebody else in the community. Jordan LaRose is our guest this week. He reached out to me quite a long time ago to sort of let me know he was out there. And that's one of my favorite messages, you guys. Like, to get a DM on Twitter or Discord or whatever it is, or whatever. I don't even know how people... carrier pigeon, again. Just to let me know that you're out there, you've been listening and enjoying stuff. Like, that is so cool, because there's a community who are like active in the Discord. They like the tweets, they leave the comments on the YouTubes, which you guys are of course amazing. But when somebody comes up out of the darkness and goes like, I'm here too, that's the coolest thing, man. That's the cool, because as a content creator, I think I can speak on behalf of maybe others, but if not, I'll just say it for myself. Like, you kind of get like this idea that whoever is responding, leaving comments, all those things, like the only people that you see are the only people listening. And of course that's not the case. And I know that because I'm one of those people for a lot of podcasts. I listen to a ton of stuff, but I'm usually not leaving comments or anything like that. But I'm always there. I don't miss an episode of the Player One podcast, but I don't always like leave a comment or anything like that. So if you're there, maybe I could practice what I preach here, but I always appreciate when you guys let us know that you're there, because Jordan LaRose is one of those people. And man, this is a really fun chat. I'm not even going to say anything more about it. Let's just jump right into it. Here he is, my new friend, Jordan LaRose.
Yeah, for sure. It's been going well. I mean, the first episode was a bit of a dumpster fire, but I think the second episode went way better. I think the first one was really just we were recording just in the kitchen, and we have a cat. So my fiance has like an 18-year-old elderly cat.
Oh my
God.
Like,
she can barely see, and she just like wanders around the house in the middle of the night just screaming. I think when you were on stream on Saturday, right?
Yeah.
You heard a cat going around.
That's no way.
Yeah, that's the cat that wanders around. So like, I think it's like 45 minutes in, we're talking about something, and then just all you hear is just a cat randomly walking around sounding like it's dying.
Oh.
But she's the cutest. She's the best. But yeah, the first episode was not the greatest towards the end, but the second episode I thought was light years better. And it's I don't know, it's something I've never done. Like with the work that I do, I talk to people all day, but I don't really sit in front of a microphone like this. So it's just a different kind of experience, which has been good.
What do you do? How are you talking to people all day?
Yeah, so I'm an operations manager for a international freight forwarding company.
Yeah.
So I work in international logistics.
So not exactly talking about like, entertainment,
Gaming.
games or anything like that. You're just like, talking, but maybe about things that you wouldn't want to be for forever.
Yeah, more like business related stuff and obviously making sure people are putting things where they're supposed to be, and a lot of firefighting. That's what I do.
Oh yeah.
Kind of on a day-to-day basis. But yeah, it's enjoyable. It's enjoyable to teach people at this point kind of in my career. I'm generally bringing newer employees to the industry along and trying to teach them things, and it's that's really the not light at the end of the tunnel, but it's something that's really rewarding to kind of teach them, and they don't always stay, but to bring them into their first job and show them kind of the ropes and everything, it's pretty satisfying.
There's something about seeing the light go off for somebody else, like for them to go like, oh, and for them to kind of grow and reach potential. Like there's definitely something there, but teaching and coaching and those types of things, it's not for everybody. It's tough. It's a tough gig, and it's a thankless job. Like it's all those things. People make it look easier than it is. There's a lot of ways to screw it up, like all that stuff, man.
100%. And that's interesting. So my fiance is actually a teacher.
Oh, there you go.
She's an elementary teacher. So before I had met her, I didn't really have like an inside view as far as what teachers do on a day-to-day basis.
Oh, man.
I mean, a lot of days you have young kids, right? Like it's a thankless job a lot of days for teachers, but it's definitely can be rewarding. I mean, she loves it. Yeah. She loves her she loves her job every day.
Of course.
That she goes in, but it's definitely can be a challenge at times, just like anything else.
Sure.
It's not always easy.
Well, I'm tempted to think about like, thinking about teachers dealing with parents. And I feel like that's the same thing that people say when they get out onto the road and they go like, oh man, everybody else is a bad driver, but I'm a great driver. And when they think about like parents at a school, it's like, oh man, the parents of this place must be awful. I'm like, I'm like one of them. Like who am I to say that, I'm so much better than all these other people? We're all just trying to figure it out.
Yeah. And you hear all the stories, but it's also like everybody has a different idea on how to raise their kids and
big time,
kind of what all that entails. And obviously people are weird.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like everybody's different.
Yeah. So it's definitely, there's no, like she's on maternity leave right now. We've got a little one, but every time that she comes home, there's always an interesting story.
I'll bet.
Especially at kindergarten too. She's done tons of different grades, but the stories coming home from teaching kindergarten on a day-to-day basis is just
I can't
fascinating.
Imagine. Is this where both of you guys? Is this where you thought you would be in terms of your careers and stuff? Like teaching, I don't think that you really like fall into. It seems like a pretty purposeful path.
Yeah.
But like for you, is that? Or maybe that's not the case. But is that the case for you? Like, was this the idea from the start?
Yeah, for me it was. This is kind of where I wanted my career to go.
That's awesome.
I actually went to school for international trade, so like international business, and I finished school. I just hit the ground running and got a job like right in the middle of the recession. So I graduated in like April of 2009.
Yep.
Which was like right in the peak of everything that was happening during that period of time.
No doubt.
And my graduating class, I was one of the only ones to get a job, at least in my field.
Mm-hmm.
So I got hired with my company and I just started working, and I've been there now for 13 years.
Wow.
So I worked my way up from the ground up, and I went to supervisor. Now I'm managing a team. I've got 7 people that report into me. So it's been rewarding. I mean, there's been a lot of hard years of work, especially in my 20s, but I'm feeling now kind of in my early 30s, I feel like I'm kind of hitting my stride and I'm comfortable in the role that I'm in. So this is really what I'm gonna do for the next 20 or 30 years of my life. And
that confidence, man, that is really refreshing to hear. It's just like, you know, you get the job right out of school, you're doing the thing, you stick with it for more than a decade. That resonates big time with me. I was with one organization for just shy of 10 years. And like, when I start to think about like life and work and everything, I'm like, we're going to be doing this for a long time. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to be at this for a couple decades more still. So I don't want to be like, you know, chopping that up into little 2-3 year chunks here. Like, I kind of want to change. It's just too much, man. And also change is one thing, but also you can get really good at it if you stick with it. You know, the 10,000 hours, you become a master or something. Like, I think that there's something to that.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, there's totally something to that. And I think now, like, for me, the job is more the challenge of dealing with people and learning how to work with different people that have different types of mindsets. Mm-hmm. Like, if I look back 10 years from now, or if I look back 10 years ago when I was in my early 20s, I would never have approached certain situations the way that I do now. Yeah. Into my 30s. So
what kind of kid were you? What kind of teenager in early 20s kind of guy were you?
Oh, I was the partier.
Yeah.
I was always out. Always out at the clubs when I was in college and hanging out with the bad crowds. By the time I got to college though, I had run through all of that, because we started early. I mean, in Canada, we start pretty early with
drinking,
the partying, and the drinking and stuff. By the time we get to college,
actual legal like drinking age, you're kind of done.
18. Yeah, well, I mean, and that was the weird thing. I went to college really early. I was 18.
Were you really?
Going on, yeah. So I actually wasn't in Ontario. I wasn't legally allowed to drink.
Isn't that amazing?
At that point, so it was. By that point in time, I'd already gone through high school, and we were drinking quite regularly and partying and whatnot. So by the time I got through college, I was ready to kind of settle down and dig in and do the work and build a career, right? But for other people, I know you're not even hitting your stride in that regard until you're like in your early 20s, right?
Man, and it's just, and now as a parent, you have to think about it as well. Like, you just know the life you've lived, you know the path that you've taken and the choices you've made, and you kind of go, okay, well, like, how does this thing like do something? Maybe if you're happy with it, like, how do you get something similar, but also, you know, not live quite so dangerously? I don't know. It's all part of the path, you know. It's all part of like what gets you to where you are right now.
Exactly. And I mean, I have a baby girl. She's 7.5 months old.
Oh my God. So I feel like I just messaged you and she was 3 months old, dude.
I know. Yeah. It was, the last 7.5 months have flown by. It's been crazy how quickly it's gone. I was sending a video to a friend today. She's starting to get to that point where she can crawl.
Yeah.
And she's almost mobile. So it's interesting to watch kind of the transition from just sitting to getting to the point now where she's starting to be able to kind of get mobile and move around and start to grab things. And she's not quite there, but we're getting really close. But yeah, I mean, having kids has definitely changed my perspective a lot on a lot of things.
On a lot of things. Yeah, you got a girl now too, man. Mm-hmm.
Well, and it was funny too. I was actually just listening to, I was digging back through old We the GamerCast.
Oh, dangerous territory
episodes.
Oh, no. Yeah.
So it was funny. I was just randomly going back through them, and I stumbled on the 50th episode.
Oh, it's a great episode.
You and your wife.
Yes.
And just to kind of go back and see, I don't know, it was just to see kind of some different episodes, different guests. But I went back to that one, and then at the end of the episode, you guys announced that you were having your first kid, and that was awesome. But yeah, it's just to see kind of what you were recording then and kind of where you're at now. It's interesting to see. Like, it's 5 years, so obviously you've been putting in the work with what you're doing. But it's I mean, you've come a long way since then.
Oh, you're not kidding. I got to have Chelsea back on, actually, because we have a lot to talk about. And, well, at least, because I haven't talked to her since the 50th episode. But we actually, at one point, we recorded maybe 10 or 15 minutes of another episode. And we just kind of looked at each other and like, Are you tired? Like, I'm tired. Like, let's just let's just not. We never got back to it, actually, unfortunately. Like, the show is just one of those things that it kind of has to go on. You end up finding another guest for the next week. So I got to have her back on. But that's part of it. Like, there's so many things that I could talk about with the show, but like documenting where you are in your life and just sort of like, you eventually get to the games and to whatever else, but you got those little like pockets of time where you sort of deposit it into a time capsule. And they're there, man. Yeah, episode 50 is that's very cool, man. But I wanted to let me jump back to you, because we'll get back to like where you are right now with your daughter and everything. But I want to jump back to like young Jordan, man. Like, because I feel like I don't know, because we're both sort of maybe mid 80s, maybe you're a little later 80s kind of.
I was 88, kid. But yeah, close. We're around there. We're in the same realm.
Like I don't know, maybe it was just something about that time and growing, like being at a certain age, at certain points in time, seemed like. I feel like we both had similar 17 to 22 years of age kind of experiences, man. What else were you into at that point in time? Like, were you into? You seem like a hockey guy to me. That's sort of just a guess.
Yeah. So I played hockey a lot when I was younger. Played a lot of organized sports. I played soccer quite a bit. I mean,
there you go.
In Canada, that's a pretty common thing to put your kids into.
Is it really? I didn't know if it was. Like, I just thought we were poor, so we couldn't afford hockey.
Well, so that's the thing, right? Like as a parent, if you're looking to get your kids active, I cannot recommend soccer enough, because it's super cheap and it's very time consuming. And it's much cheaper than putting your kid in hockey. But I did soccer a lot when I was younger. And I played hockey. I mean, I never got anywhere with it really. It was really just house league. I'd play a little bit of select. I think I played rep hockey 1 year. I still play hockey with the boys here and there. We have a beer league that we play with, which we really enjoy. It's good to get together and just have a couple beers and hang out with the guys in the room. But those were the main sports that I played when I was growing up. So big Leafs fan.
It's too bad. Sorry about that.
Yeah, for my old man. My old man's been waiting even longer than I have. So I think he said he's been waiting since like his 6th birthday, I think, for something to happen. So it's just been pure torture. But yeah, that was really my main hobbies, I guess, when I was younger. We definitely played games around the house for sure. I mean, we had. Some of my earliest memories were my dad. So when I was super young, we lived in a semi, and my dad had a computer in the basement. And I always remember late at night, I'd wake up and I'd hear him downstairs with his friends, and he'd be playing the PC version of Wolfenstein. I believe it was like very, very early version of it. So he'd be down there playing it, and I'd always be getting yelled at by my mom that I can't go down there because they're playing the bad games.
Yeah,
I'm
man.
not allowed to be down there.
Pretty violent stuff, dude.
Yeah, very violent back. One of the most violent games back then. But yeah, so then there's that, and we had an original NES in the house, which I think was used. And it was always. I mean, you probably remember trying to get those cartridges to work whenever they went bad. You'd have to toss like a towel on them, or you take like a sweater and just blow on them until you get the cartridge to work. You put them in, you put them back out. Like, it was nuts.
But
the Duck Hunt was a ton of fun.
That's the one thing that always blows my mind, because that was the age before the internet, where we have like centralized, like what to do. Like, hey Google, like what happens if my stuff doesn't work? Like, we didn't have that. We all just kind of like figured that out on our own. Just like take it out and blow on it, or like jam it in real hard, or push down on it as you kind of slide it back into its thing. Like, there's always these little tricks that I don't know where they propagated from. Like, who told everybody about this thing? Where did that come from?
Yeah. Well, it's crazy. Like, kids today will never know. Well, I mean, they'll have an idea, but like word of mouth is like, that's how we got by on a day-to-day basis back in the day. Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Nintendo was definitely big. We played, the Mario games, and we had Duck Hunt and all that. We had the gun, that was a big deal back then.
Honestly.
Then we didn't really get an SNES. My buddy actually had one at his house, so we'd always go over there and we'd be wanting to play Yoshi. I think it was Yoshi's Island that he always wanted us to play, which was a ton of fun. And yeah, that was good. And then eventually one Christmas we ended up getting a Nintendo GameCube.
Yeah.
And my parents decided that they were going to buy it for me and my sister, which was a huge mistake
Why is that?
because they bought Mario Party.
Yeah.
And for Nintendo GameCube, if I'm sure the listeners have played Mario Party, it can turn pretty
Friend ender.
badly. Yeah, friend ender or family argument can ensue quite quickly. But yeah, I played a ton of games on there. Mario Sunshine, played a bunch of those, and it was a ton of fun. And then I didn't really
hang on a second. Hey, I want to touch on this Mario Party thing. Like, because you
Yeah.
know, maybe there's a certain age where you just don't even differentiate, and you just end up taking out your anger on each other. But it's like it's clearly the game that's screwing you over. It's not the other person. It's clearly like these bonus stars or whatever, or like this person gets a lucky dice or dice roll or whatever. Like it's not the other person that you should be mad at. But somehow Nintendo has this magic where it's like you can't get mad at the game. You got to be, obviously you take it out on your brother or your sister next to you.
No, for sure. And well, and I mean too, like I consider myself to be fairly competitive, and I don't, and you want to win.
There it
right?
is. Yeah,
there
it is.
The problem is that at that age, and at most people, I mean, even with the Mario Party Superstars that's out now,
Yeah.
I mean, at that age, you don't know that the game is completely rigged against you from the very beginning, right? It's really just a lot of it is less about skill and more about luck.
It's completely
ways,
random,
right?
and it's also I feel like that's maybe part of the magic in that like anybody can play. You know, like we play Halo these days, or we play. I remember even back in the day playing 64 and playing like GoldenEye, and it got to a point where I just didn't even want to play anymore because you only have like 4 people who you know who you're playing with. And it's not like you can go online and just find new people. You're like you're playing. I was playing with my neighbor. He was only gonna get better because he had the system. I went and played on his system. He was only gonna get better. So at a certain point, I'm like, nuts to this, man. Let's just play, I don't know, International Superstar Soccer or something like something like that on 64.
Yeah. Well, and I played GoldenEye too. I mean, same thing. Mario Kart, same thing. Like you were either getting beat down by the kids that had N64s, or you were last, right? So it was like, yeah, I don't know. It was an interesting time for video games, that's for sure.
Yeah. So now you kind of fast forward. You're a dad. Daughter's 7 months old. You're starting a podcast. It seems like maybe a strange time to take up additional hobbies. Are you doing okay? Are you tired, man? Are you like you got a lot on your plate right now? Advancing in your career.
No, I know. Yeah, for sure. I mean, well, I think now I've just kind of become comfortable in my job in a sense that my focus is really more on what I'm doing outside of my job. I spent a good chunk of my 20s really focused on my job, and that was it. Like I didn't really do much on the personal side of things, and I really have tried to focus in my 30s on making sure that I'm doing things for me and not just doing things for my job. So I mean, I would work 60, 70 hours a week in my 20s, just grinding workout on a day-to-day basis. And it's got to the end of my 20s and I was like, I can't keep doing this. Like it's soul crushing in a lot of ways, just because if something's not going well at work, right,
then that's your entire world.
There's no outlet. There's no outlet, right? And that kind of, I woke up one day and just kind of realized that I need to have something to do other than the work that I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, so that it helps from a mental standpoint to be able to kind of stay even keeled, because it can be tough on a day-to-day basis when work's not going well.
Where did the tunnel vision come from, the dedication to work? Like where did that sort of like, and was it a frog sitting in a boiling pot of water or something, like where you just didn't realize all of a sudden you wake up, you're like, how, son of a bitch, I'm at 70 hours a week? It's just like an extra evening or something here and there, and suddenly it's every day 10 or 12 hours a day kind of thing.
I mean the work ethic for me always came from probably my dad. And just kind of seeing him work on a day-to-day basis. And I mean, not just, so my dad, he's still working, but he writes jet engine manuals for,
oh my God.
Yeah. He's a publications, writer for, one of the major defense contractors.
That's
United Technologies.
awesome.
Yeah, so he's been doing that now for, I think I saw a message online. I think it's 37 years now he's been doing it. So he
Wow,
used to
good for him.
actually, he's a machinist by trade, but he
Yeah.
used to actually build jet engines on the machine shop floor. So he would put them together, and then they would go off to companies like Boeing and Airbus or Learjet or whoever Bombardier was be another customer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so the work ethic from him, I mean, I'd see it not only in his job on a day-to-day basis, but I mean, my dad would always be the type of person that would try to do things on his own and work really hard to get it done. So just seeing that, and then my dad and my mom always instilled making sure that everything that I had, I kind of worked for.
Yeah.
And I earned it on my own. So
Yeah,
I mean,
man.
I had started at an early age working. I mean, everything
Same.
from doing, like a paper route. I think my first paper route was probably when I was like 10 years old.
I'm telling you, man, we have such similar upbringings, dude. I see a lot of me and you, man. That's yeah. I would have guessed that, actually. A paper route or something somewhere back in the day. Like, it starts early, and it seems like it just manifests into something else in your 30s at some point. Like, your work ethic, your dedication, like your just approach, and even to approach to sports and parenthood. Like, it all rings so similar to me, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that's definitely something I've kind of found, like listening to your podcast, different shows, is just trying, understanding kind of who you are. And
yeah, man, we're the same person.
I know, man.
My dad is far from a jet engine manual writer. That is like both you and your dad. Like, it's like, where do these jobs come from? This is what I continue to be this fascinated on the show. Is like, where do these careers come from? I had no idea, and it's fascinating to me, dude.
And it's crazy, like, to think, like, today, like, it'd be very difficult to see somebody from our generation spending 37 years at the same company. But I think a lot of, sticking it out with the same company that I've been in, even though there's been difficult years that I've gone through, like, a lot of that comes from seeing him go to work and come home every day and doing it every day. Right. But yeah, I mean, I did paper routes. I think I even stole chocolate bars at one point, like out front of like Canadian Tire and Walmarts and stuff like that. So I did that for a while. And then eventually I got a job working in retail. So I was working at a grocery store.
Yeah.
I was 13.
So did I, dude.
Yeah. My dad got me a job because he knew the owner of the grocery store, the local grocery store. So I started working there, and I was just pretty much stocking shelves.
Yeah.
When I was 13 until I was probably about 15 or 16.
Yeah.
And then I ended up leaving that company because I asked for like a little bit of an additional raise, and that was a really big learning moment for me because I'm sitting in the owner of the store's office. I'm asking for an increase, and I just break down crying when he says, "No, I won't give it to you."
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God. So I mean, looking back, I'm like, but I'm just a kid, right?
Yep.
So it's like, you don't know any better at that point. But I mean, from that moment on, I was like, I am never, ever showing that type of vulnerability in the room of my manager or, somebody where I'm asking something, because, they can potentially take advantage of you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
In that situation. So, I mean, anyway, in that job, it was funny because I left there and ended up at Giant Tiger.
Yeah, classic.
Folks in the US, I don't know, it's got
to be a Canadian thing.
Yeah, it's totally a Canadian thing, I think. I'm just trying to think of what would be comparable to the US.
I don't know, man. It's like a budget Walmart kind of thing. It's like honestly, sometimes if you were to say, like, if Canada did Walmart, it would probably appear like a Giant Tiger thing.
Yeah, that's fair. That's actually a good comparison.
We had a guy when I was in university, we had like one of their like heads of marketing or something come do a presentation for us at school. And it was super interesting because they were a company that was originally sort of created to service like a really underserved community, just like really far up north, who typically they just didn't have like the distribution pathways to get stuff up there. So like Giant Tiger's like, okay, we'll be the ones. Like, there's nobody else here. Like, we'll just do everything. And so they kind of have all products, I guess, is kind of way to say it.
Yeah, and I mean they have some grocery items. They
Yeah.
have stuff that you would find in a Walmart, like clothing, underwear, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, Cigarettes if you want them, all
Smoke
that
them if you
type of
got them.
stuff.
Yeah,
But
man. So you were there.
um,
Hang on, I want to ask you about, because you've been working since you were very young, and for me,
yeah,
like my parents took half of every paycheck. They like we didn't. They had
yeah,
control of the bank accounts. They had everything, and as a kid, I
right,
was always really mad that they were taking away half my money, not for their own pleasures or whatever. They
yeah,
they put it away into a education account, which I will never be able to repay for them for that. That was obviously the best thing they could have done for
that's
us.
smart.
What were you doing? You've been working. Like, were you able to just like buy hockey cards, or like what were you doing with all this cash? You had no bills, man. You had no cell phones. They didn't even exist. Like, what were you doing with all this cash flow?
Yeah, so well, I mean, at the beginning, my parents really started me with an allowance. That's kind of how I
Yeah,
started. And then once I started the paper route, any of the money that I had, if there was things that I wanted, the only way that I could get them is if I worked for them.
yeah,
So
man.
you're doing the paper route, if a bike, like I remember buying a Schwinn
No
uh,
snap.
BMX bike. I wanted it so
Yeah,
bad. I think it was like $300 or $400, and back
yeah.
then that was a ton of money.
No, no kidding.
I don't know how long I had to work for it, but until I made the money through the job that I was working, that was the only opportunity I was able to buy it. I mean, my
Yeah.
parents just made a real point of not buying me things and making me
Mm-hmm.
earn it, right? And I really kind of think that that's helped me a lot in life down the road.
Yeah.
But I didn't really have much of a setup as like them putting it into a savings account or anything like that. But I did pay my own way. Like once I got
Mm-hmm.
to 16, I had a driver's license.
Yep.
I was able to buy my first car when I was 16 and a half.
Yeah, man.
Like as soon as I was able to get my full license, I had a car, and I bought the car for like $1,400,
Nice. Yeah.
and
What was
my
it?
insurance, it was a tri-colored Toyota Camry. It had a pinstripe,
Tricolor.
and it was tri-colored because I had to do a ton of body work on it and paint it.
Yeah.
My uncle helped me do the body work with my dad,
Yeah.
and yeah, the insurance was $3,500 a year,
That was
and
standard, dude.
I
That was
bought it
when
for like,
when you
oh
first started driving, it was
yeah,
$3,600 a year. I remember I had the exact same thing.
it was wild. It
Hmm.
was insane, and I think in the first 3 years I spent like 10 to 12,000 in insurance
Yep.
just to keep it on the road, and
Yeah.
like that was a good chunk of the money that I was earning, working at grocery stores,
Hmm.
working 30 hours a week, doing night shifts and stuff like that, was all
Yeah.
to pay for the car so that I could have that freedom. Because I grew
Hmm.
up in a small town. Like in my town, like you couldn't walk. You
Yeah.
generally didn't walk from one place to the other. Like if you wanted to go out and hang out with your friends, you needed a car.
Hmm.
That was your ticket to ride.
Yeah, man.
So that was the majority of what I was spending
Well,
spending the money.
there
For
is
sure.
something to be said about, just setting your goals on stuff like that. Like it was so funny that you mentioned that, because just earlier tonight I was playing Pokemon with the kiddos, and I was kind of walking
Yeah.
Lincoln through. He's about 4.5 at this point. And so we're stopping at a shop in Pokemon, and I'm asking the kids, like I'm really asking them like to make decisions in the game. Like, should we do this move or this move? And Lincoln's reading now, so I can say like, what does it say under this attack? And he's like, it's not effective. So I'm like, so should we use it? It says that's not really going to work. He's like, maybe we'll try something else. So I'm having him like make some decisions that are trying to make them pretty kind of no brainer, at least at this stage. But then we were in a shop, and I was saying, you've got this much money, and this is how much a potion costs. Like you kind of have to make some decisions, and they actually do something similar with their snacks. They've got like 3 shelves where the top
Yeah.
is free, and it's all fruit and vegetables and stuff like that. And by the time you get down to the bottom, it's like, fruit by the foot and stuff like that, but it costs more coins. So they're having to make these decisions. And I just think that there's something to be said about instilling like that financial like knowledge in kids, whether or not
Yeah.
they're, I don't know, 4 might be a little early, but I'm not sure. But I just think it's really important to go,
Never,
you
it's
want
never
that
too
bike,
early.
right? Like you want that bike, you save for that bike, dude. Like I think that is awesome.
Yeah. Well, and even like it's never too early to try to teach your kids. I mean, how much they'll take away from it
Yeah.
is really, up to them. I mean, at that
Hmm.
point, they're still pretty young, but I mean, 4.5. I mean, he's starting to kind of
He's putting things
recognize
together.
those things. He's putting it together at that age, right?
Yeah.
So it's good that you're doing that and getting him going with that.
Well, it's always good to reflect, I think, on just like our own paths, and back to you and your 7-month-old. Like, how is this? Again, is this part of the plan that you guys had? Is this like, were you always planning on being a dad? Did you kind of see this happening for you at this point in your life, or how was that going for you?
Yeah, I always planned on having kids. I just kind of I never really had any idea on kind of when it was going to happen. I mean,
Right.
My life in my 20s was a ride. I had a lot of medical things kind of going on that I kind of really had to get through, to deal with. But once I got to 30, I met Madeline, or Maddie, who's my fiance.
Yeah.
And my whole life changed. We got together. Everything kind of moved pretty quickly. We moved in together, and then the pandemic hit. And we kind of had, I mean, you always have a plan in your head of kind of what you want to do for kids. And we kind of agreed that we would get married before we had kids. And that was really kind of what my fiance wanted, probably more than me. I mean, for me, it was, we have kids when the time is right.
Right.
As opposed to needing to be married. But for me, it was neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But then the pandemic happened, and we get to the summer of the pandemic, and we're sitting down and we're just having conversations, and we're like, when are we actually really going to have a wedding? Because, and then you start to have that conversation, and then you start to think about it. Well, we both agree that we want to have, 2, possibly 3 kids.
Yeah.
Do we want to wait until we can get married? Because who knows at this point with the pandemic. So, I mean, one thing led to another, and we, went talked to the doctors and decided, let's try to have kids. And we were super lucky, very fortunate. We were able to have our baby pretty immediately, which was great. Our birth story was very interesting.
Oh yeah.
You and your wife know, like, every birth is very unique.
Yes.
One is never the same.
Yeah.
But we were in labor for 30 hours.
Good God.
It was absolutely crazy. So Reese, I could see Reese's head at about hour 26, and she just did not want to come out. So my fiance, who's just an absolute saint, I mean, she was going through it. We ended up having to do a C-section, and, not to be too graphic for the viewers, but she hemorrhaged post C-section, which is, for those that don't know, it's not exactly what you want to happen, but it's pretty common for a C-section.
Yeah.
So we were in the hospital a little bit longer. Everything was fine. And then we ended up getting home, and we were home for about 24 hours. Baby's, Reese is 100% healthy. Couldn't be better.
Yeah.
But my future wife, she was home for about 24 hours, and she hemorrhaged again. And passed out on the toilet. I had to call an ambulance. Like, I had to call 911.
Oh my gosh.
The whole deal. So it was really scary. And I mean, for those that have,
because you don't know what's happening in that moment. You don't even know that she would be at risk of hemorrhaging, or, like, as far as the hospital let you go home, so everything should be fine.
Well, in first pregnancy too, right? Like, I don't want to say that I'm an idiot to it all, but, like, there's a lot. They're even doing the birthing classes and stuff. Like, until you're in it and you see it and you go through it, experiences everything in that regard. And I mean, I didn't even think anything about it, but it happens. It happens to women after a C-section. So, I mean, that was a difficult event. Thankfully, everything was okay. The ambulance got there in like 4 minutes, which was great. But I mean, I had to hold her up. Like, it was scary. But we were able to get her to the hospital. She got looked at. She got, a couple, I don't know if it's quarts or blood. And then, she was able to go home after a couple days. And then, even crazier, we get another week and a half down the road, and she's at the chiropractor, and it happens again.
Oh man, chiropractor after that short of time. I don't know about that, especially if hemorrhaging is a thing.
So it was. Yeah, so I had to drive down to, anyway, it was a crazy.
You're lucky that you that you even knew that something was wrong when she was, like, of all the places, to for something bad to happen. The bathroom is probably one of the worst, because there's privacy. Like you're just kind of like letting her do her thing, and
and I had left the house. And she
oh
called
my
me
gosh,
panicking. So I raced home because I had dropped the dog off. And
she wasn't feeling well.
And I found her in there, and she was like white as a ghost, right? So it was just,
oh my god,
it's really scary. I mean, and the craziest thing after all of that, my wife is like, yeah, like, this is when I'm thinking we should have the next kid. And I'm just like,
that is crazy.
She's just, one of the strongest people I know. Like, to go through something like that, it's just been, it's been incredibly inspiring to kind of watch her go through that. And the whole experience as a whole has just been, incredibly eye-opening for sure.
It changes everything. If you haven't gone through it, like there's really nothing quite like it. It's hard to really convey. And I like, that's the funny thing about podcasting throughout this whole time is, you can almost, I don't know, like I feel like there's something different about me now than there was like back then. Like, I don't know if like innocence is really it, but it's like, there's like or naive is really probably it. It's just like, even dealing with other people who were parents, I just had no idea like just what their day to day was like, and that it's basically forever. You know what I mean? Like you're just like these kids aren't going anywhere. They're going to be around forever, and you have a never ending responsibility to them, even beyond 18. Whenever they move out, like they're still going to need you.
Yeah, and I mean for sure. Like, and that's the thing. Like even just in the last couple months, we've still like looked at each other on the couch and said, "We have a child."
Yeah, man. Yeah,
like
somebody moved into this place.
I know it's nuts, but so what are some of the things you've kind of run into as a parent? Any challenges or anything that you kind of have found to be difficult?
I had an absolutely, I can almost kind of say jokingly now, but because it's been a couple of years, but I had like an absolute breakdown about 6 or 7 months after Lincoln was born. Actually, like I had just a really terrible time with it. Just high expectations of myself. Not being able to like keep up. I was like, just tired all the time. I wasn't taking very good care of myself. And that was surprising. I definitely didn't see that coming. Yeah. I'd heard that it was hard. And even when after Lincoln was born, I was mad that people were saying that it was hard, because that's not how I would have described it. It's different than it's hard. Like it's just altering, like you're no longer ever operating at like you're 100%, or even you're never able to give like 120. You're giving 120 because your tank is at 60, like that's kind of how I would describe, especially the early days for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and your mental health is super important, right? I mean, I've had struggles since I was like 13.
Yeah,
I've had challenges with depression and anxiety. I mean, it runs in my family, right? And
yeah, same.
I mean, sometimes an event can kind of trigger certain things, but yeah, I mean, it's super important that we talk to each other, and that we like just having frank conversations about mental health, and that you've struggled is half the battle to be able to potentially, help somebody else that maybe is struggling with it. Because there's lots of people out there that are kind of going through it that don't really talk about it on a day-to-day basis. But I mean, having a kid is life altering. I mean, I find day to day, even at this point, it can be a challenge, right? I mean,
it changes everything, doesn't it? Like you get into especially, I think we both had probably similar sort of 21 to 30 years of age, like probably something similar. And you get into a bit of a routine. You get into Saturday nights are going to be the same thing. Friday nights are going to be the same thing. Like you get into if you're working 70 hours a week, like that kind of becomes your regimen. And then all of a sudden a kid comes into the picture. And it's like, there is no routine. Or if there is one, it's like, I'm making sure this kid eats, however many times a day in their first couple of days. So it turns everything on its head, and you have to become really good at improvising, I think is what I remember from the early days. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like I'm not quite as far into it as you are, but yeah, I mean, I try to make a point to exercise like 4 days a week, because it's, I mean, it's important for that for me, that's huge. Something that really helps with your mental health. Right. But I mean, that's that workout is generally, at the end of my workday, right?
Yeah.
And that's been a challenge because that's generally, a period of the day where, your partner needs help with the kids or
Yeah.
kid,
Yeah.
what's going on. So it's a lot of it's just trying to figure out what your schedule is once you have kids and how to navigate making sure that you're there to help your partner too, right? But
Yes.
I mean, for any parent, for any dad that's out there, the first 6 months, I mean, it is difficult because your partner in a lot of ways is doing a lot of the heavy lifting,
Yeah.
depending on how the feeding's going and everything like that. I mean, they're very attached to their mother, right? And focus is just, for me at least mentally, is just knowing that there's going to be tons of days down the road where all she's going to want to do is be with dad, right?
Yeah, man.
So
yeah, there'll be and it'll, I don't even know what I would say, with Ellie being, she just turned 3. It's like, it's like a flickering switch, from being not on at all to like, all of a sudden she'd be like, and now I'm with dad, I'm holding his hand, we're going. And sometimes she'll just be like, I want to walk. And we'll just like walk around the kitchen. We'll just do laps around the island and stuff. It's like, you just don't say no to that. You know what I mean? I had one moment when I was working from home after COVID hit and Lincoln came down here. And it was about 4:30. I should have been done work 4:30, 5 o'clock. And he wanted me to go back upstairs with him. And I said, I just need a couple more minutes. I'll be right up there. And he's like, okay. And he kind of went upstairs. And I got a message from Chelsea about 25 minutes later. And she's like, what did you say to him? I said, I'll be up there in a second. And she says, he's been bawling the whole time. He's been crying. And I'm like, and I just had this moment of like, I'm not doing that again. I felt like work was more important and it wasn't. And as it turns out, work is still around. Like I still have more stuff to do. And that was such a huge, huge moment. And I feel like just being a parent is a collection of like those Polaroid snapshots that, like, as terrible as my memory is, that's something that is just like forever stamped into my brain. Like the birth of both kids, like that's implanted, man. That's forever. So like, there's all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, like I had similar moments, like a couple relationships in my 20s where, they didn't exactly work out, and that, I mean, that was really because the focus was on work.
Yeah,
and not really on trying to like take care of myself and obviously take care of those relationships with other people. And I mean, by the time I got to 30, I had kind of figured it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you have those light bulb moments every once in a while. I mean, I find I'm doing it a lot more the last little while where it's just like, I know that you need something, but it's like family's the most important thing, right? Like you're never going to remember whether, that person, you complete that order or you send that email. Like it can wait in a lot of ways, right? And I mean,
more often than not, it really can. And are you working at home now? Like, are you mostly at home or do you go in now?
Yeah, I'm going in. So I'm going in probably about 1 day to 2 days a week, depending on what I've got going on. I mean, I commute in about an hour to close to the airport.
Yeah.
I live like out in I live in Guelph, if anybody knows. But it's about an hour away from Toronto. And so obviously for me, it's nice to be able to work from home. I mean, the pandemic was not a good thing, but I've been wanting to work from home for probably the better part of 5 years. And the pandemic has just kind of accelerated that.
Suddenly there's a way to do it. They told you for years you couldn't be done. And now all of a sudden we kind of had to figure it all out.
For sure. And they want us to start going back into the office. So they have us doing a hybrid schedule, which is, I mean, a lot of businesses are I shouldn't say forcing, but they're telling people they have to come back into work 5 days a week. And I mean, something that for me is better than nothing. That's kind of the way that I look at it. But I mean, I would like to eventually get to a place where I can work at home 5 days a week. 'Cause, I mean, I've noticed it too. Like I spend 2 hours in the car every day. So 10 hours a week.
Yeah.
Like that's time that
adding it up.
other things. I know, right? Like you don't think about it. Like I'll be honest with you, I didn't think about it in earnest until April of 2020, where I was like, this rat race is just insane.
It is actually insane. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, right now,
but there's benefits to it. You get to listen to all the podcasts. You get the separation of like work and home and stuff. Like there's definitely, it's not all bad. It's not like we're all losing our minds, but you're right. Like it never comes to light until like you just completely, when do we ever change everybody, we all change our lifestyles kind of all at once. It changed my podcasting lifestyle, for God's sakes. I don't have a commute anymore. I drive around to McDonald's like for no reason.
Yeah, no, I know. And I mean, it's definitely given me a lot more time. And I mean, I've definitely filled that with things like this, along with, other hobbies and stuff. But it's also, I'm at home when my family's at home too, right? So I get to interact with my family on a day-to-day basis. And I mean, sometimes that can be trying, but like to just be able to walk down and have a coffee and just go over and hang out for 2 minutes with Reese and my fiance you can't buy that, right? Like it's just different in a lot of ways. So
I don't know at it like that.
Yeah. I don't know what the future will bring, but I mean, I'm enjoying it for now, and
good for you.
See kind of where it goes.
So where did the podcast come from? Now we've kind of caught up to now, like who had the idea? You're now 2 episodes in. I love the fact that like episode 2 is light years beyond number 1, and I can't wait for you to get to 3 and then 10 and everything else, so you can continue to just have those reflections. But yeah, where did this start? Again, like you just had a kid. This is busy time, man. This is all strange.
Yeah, for sure. So we found out that we got pregnant, and I thought it would be a great idea to get back into gaming.
Yeah.
So
what do you mean back in? Did you have a break? Okay, let me take another step back. Did you kind of step away?
Yeah, I mean, I had a big break really from I want to say like the beginning of the PS4.
Who hurt you, Jordan?
I know. So that's the thing, that I was with the 360.
Yeah.
Like, Red Ring of Death, the whole deal. Like I was locked into that one. And then I couldn't commit to the PS4. I was like, or not the PS4, the Xbox One. So I was like, all right, I'll get a PS4. And then from there on, I just I fell off. And I mean, again, focus, right? Like in my 20s, like all I wanted to do was climb the ladder and focus on work. So, I mean, games and gaming was something that kind of slipped, but, it's just with
do you even know what you've missed? Like, do you even know like what the, do we need to send you like a package or something?
I know. I had Grand Theft Auto on PS4 though, if that means anything. And that game just keeps getting released over and over again. No kidding. But yeah, I missed probably six years. 6 years. And I mean,
oh my gosh, PS4 was awesome, dude.
That's a lot. Yeah, I missed quite a bit. So I still had the PS4. I hadn't turned it on in like, I want to say like 2 or 3 years. And I was like, I should just try to sell this because it's like in the pandemic. So I sold it. And then I was thinking, I was like, I should try to build a PC.
Yeah, here we go. Okay.
I'll build a PC and I'll become a PC gamer, which I'm not, but I decided to build a PC. And
where does that come from? How does one go from I'm going to take a break, I'm selling my PS4 to I'm building a personal computer? Like what? Who's in your ear?
I don't know. Well, I think too, like now that like when we're in the pandemic, like I said, I'm not going into the office as frequently. Like there is more of a disposable income kind of lying around, also really looking for things to do because there's not as many extracurricular activities for us to do. Yeah. So, I mean, I was looking for something new that I hadn't done before. And
oh my gosh. That is wild, dude.
I know. So I reached out to a friend and I said, hey, I want to build a PC. What should I go and get? And here's my budget.
Yeah.
Ended up getting a case, got all the different parts. And then I was like, man, I am way in over my head. I cannot.
No kidding.
So I ended up connecting with one of my fiance's friend's husband. He works for an IT company and he's built hundreds of PCs. So I was like, hey, like I've got all these parts in a case. Like we're going to come over for dinner. Can we build a PC after we're done?
Oh, I love it.
Like, yeah, no problem. We can put it all together. So
it sounds like the best night ever.
Yeah, it was a lot of learning.
Yeah.
Night, but it was a lot of fun. Just kind of like something that I've never done before. And
no doubt.
Then I came home and I put this in the room, got a new big screen TV in the office here and fired it up and got Game Pass, played Gears of War, did all of that, which was a ton of fun.
What did your fiance say when you came to her with this? Like, okay, so I haven't been playing games in a little while, and now I'm building a PC.
Yeah, I mean, she's gonna listen to this. I think she was probably down with it when I bought the PC and the Xbox. I think now that we're at like two Xboxes, a PS5, two Switches, Amiibo up on the
Yeah,
wall, I think
you're in
she's
it.
maybe got a different. Like I'm like in it. I'm in one.
Mm-hmm.
So it's yeah, it's turned into like a full blown hobby. But I mean,
Yeah, man.
like pretty much everything else I do in life, it's to the
All in,
max in a
all
lot of
in.
ways, right?
That's a good way to
So
put it. That's just it. This is exactly the same with me, man. So I can't wait to talk to you in about a year from now when you're onto your third or fourth podcast, and everything else continues to just blow up and expand. I love it, man.
yeah, well, I mean, I'd love to kind of collaborate with a couple other people if I can kind of get my feet wet and
Yeah, dude.
talk to other people and feel like I've kind of got a voice out there. That's kind of what I'm thinking I want to do, and I really just want to play games and just have fun and chat with people.
Yeah, man.
about-
It's the best. How are you doing with Halo? We've played a couple times. Were you surprised that it sort of kind of shadow dropped, even though there was a bit of a leak? Like, how are you doing with the Halo stuff right now?
Yeah, I mean, I saw it online. I think it was Nate the Hate that put it out
Mhm.
there through Halo API or somebody on Twitter, and
Yeah,
I was like, I would be shocked if they did that because they had so much focus on Forza. So I was
yeah,
like, that
right.
kind of seems odd to just shadow drop something with all the focus on that game. But yeah, I mean, in hindsight, it kind of makes sense because they get it out to everybody
Yeah,
and they're able to test it right, before they get to December 8th, when they drop the campaign. And I mean, I don't want to say I was shocked because it seems like almost every leak that comes out these
I
days
know.
is close to true or somewhat half truth.
Hmm.
But yeah, I've been really enjoying it. I mean, it's growing up, I played um, Halo 2 a
Hmm.
lot. We played LAN parties. I mean, you posted a photo. I think you were playing a LAN party on Friday, right?
Yeah, dude.
Brought back. I saw that photo. I was like, oh my god, that brings back so many memories
Yeah,
of
man.
sitting in my buddy's basement with like like not CRT TVs, but the projection TVs with the huge
Oh
back with
yes, dude.
giant
Hmm.
TVs down the stairs to play with like a party of us, and we would just go until like 2 or 3 in the morning. And I
That's the
just feel like
best.
this version of the game really kind of speaks to people that played, Halo Combat Evolved and
Yeah.
Halo 2 more than anything. But yeah, I'm loving it. A Saturday night, I was struggling big time, but I'm enjoying it. I'm having fun with it. It's
Yeah.
great.
Oh man. Well, I feel like it's just getting started, and I think it's interesting just the timing of it when it dropped and when I've recorded the Xbox Drive too, because I think my comments on it are gonna continue to shape and shift and evolve because it's like my first thought, and I think I actually have a recording of me at least saying this once or twice on a few podcasts since then. It's like, this is the game, this isn't a beta. And in this moment, as I kind of reflect on just this past weekend of playing, I'm like, no, this is a beta. Like, this does feel like there's definitely some polish that they could apply on a number of fronts, and depending on who you are and what level you're playing at, like probably have some different comments. But I do see them still doing some tweaks, and I'd be curious to see if they get them done by December 8th by this stage, because now
Yeah,
they're starting to mount up.
definitely a lot of fine tuning, right?
Yeah.
I totally agree. Like I mean, when I first played it, I agree 100% with you. I was like, this is a beta. This seems
Yeah,
really
this
odd.
is it.
When you look at it, I mean, the battle pass initially, obviously, that was a bit of an, excuse me, is a bit of an issue. So
Yeah.
they needed to tweak that. They tweaked it. I still think they need to do a bit of work there
Yeah.
in a way. I mean, there's still issues with the XP progression
Yeah.
that they kind of need to work out. I'm also not a huge fan, like when you're going into quick play. I mean, I'm wondering if that's what's coming December 8th is you don't have the ability to select what type of match you want to play.
Yeah.
If you want to do Slayer or if you want to do Oddball.
Yeah.
I mean, CTF is fun, but I mean, I would like to be able to
I'd rather not.
where I end up, right? It would be good, but I mean, overall, like it's a great game, man. Like there's going to be a ton of people playing it.
Oh,
A
no
lot of
doubt.
people are going to be getting Series S's for Christmas.
Hmm. That's
I
just
was
it,
just
dude. Halo's free. Series S is cheaper than anything else out there, man. That's a crazy combo. And it's funny when you say like the game modes and you can't select them. It sounds like Nintendo. That reminds me of Splatoon a lot, actually, where it's like, these are your maps. This is just what you're playing, man. You don't have a choice. So
Yeah,
I don't know, but there
well,
might be something to it, but
I'm hopeful that they'll kind of change it, but
I think
mean,
they
we'll
will.
have to. I think I mean it would make sense, right? But
Yeah. As the player counts go up and everything, because I think that's the biggest thing is when you have few people and you've got a lot of game modes, you don't necessarily want like you got like 16 people over here who actually want to play Capture the Flag. And the other thing too is I probably would have completely written off Capture the Flag from the start had they not almost like forced me to play it. I'm a willing participant. I'll put it that way for Capture the Flag at this point.
Right? They want you to try. They want to get populations into every type of match to be able to see what happens. In everything.
But they can do that they can do that with XP and stuff. They can incentivize in other ways to get you over there.
That's true. I mean, my buddy today, he was just texting me. He's like, should I buy a PS5 or should I buy an Xbox Series X? And I'm like, you're going to struggle to find a Series X or a PS5 right now. I said, you can follow this guy on Twitter and see if you can find it. But like a friend of mine, he ended up having to go buy one somewhere else because he couldn't find it. So, I mean, he texts me like 2 or 3 hours later and he's like, I just bought a Series S. I've got an Elite controller. And I was like, I was like curious, like, why did you end up just going and buying the S? And he's like, I'm only probably going to play like a couple games on it. Like I'm going to play Forza, I'm going to play Halo. And I'm like, so you bought it because you want to play Halo? And he's like, I really do want to play that. And I'm like, okay, wow. I'm like, that could sell a ton of machines between now and like December 25th, where parents are going out to look for Christmas gifts, and that is the only thing that is on the shelf.
Yeah, and it's so weird that there's just no stock, there's no supply, because I was just thinking, like, why don't they have like a Halo bundle? But it's like they don't have anything. You can't, like, they're selling whatever they are able to put up online. But I think I saw today was like, is this the first time we've seen a Series S in a store? And it was somebody's picture. And I'm like, it might actually be. We're basically at that stage.
Yeah, well, and I find it odd they're not kind of giving a bit of a Halo treatment on the S. Like they have a Fortnite and Rocket League bundle, which I find to be
the 2 free games.
It's so I found that to be strange. Like I feel like, I mean, they obviously had the Halo Infinite console, which was, I mean, I've got one sitting next to my mic here. I mean, it's beautiful, but I would have thought they would have put a little bit more into the Series S, trying to get a little bit more of that moving off of Halo, because I think, I mean, it's a great Halo machine. If you don't play a lot of the other like the third-party games, if you're a PS5 owner, like getting an S is a great option if you want to get into some of the stuff on Game Pass and just play some of that stuff. Like, it's perfect.
I want to ask you 2 things. You mentioned you do have a PS5. You got all the things now. You're going all in. Do you have like I think it comes with PlayStation Plus, and then you get like the PlayStation collection, like all the games from PS4. Like, I feel like for somebody like you who kind of like skipped out on that whole thing, that collection of games is unbelievable, man. Like, as an Xbox kind of guy, I was looking at that thing going like, that's a pretty good competitor to Game Pass even at this stage, because those games, that collection they just curated was like, it was excellent, dude.
Yeah, and I was actually in looking at that because I ended up getting Vanguard on Call of Duty Vanguard on PS5.
Yeah.
So I wanted to try it with the controller, and then I got the 3D Pulse headset. I wanted to try it with that. And I mean, that controller is incredible. I mean, the Xbox controller is great. Don't get me wrong, but the PS5 controller with the haptic feedback and the 3D audio is incredible. But yeah, I had to get PS Plus because I wanted to play Call of Duty online. And I was looking at those games. I've actually bought a couple of them. Like I got Ratchet and Clank 2016.
So good.
I actually have physical copies, like Horizon. Is it Zero Dawn or is it? It's not. Yeah, Forbidden West is the next one.
Mm-hmm. That was a DLC.
Like I think they have Bloodborne on there. They have
Bloodborne's excellent. I'm telling you, man. Like The Last of Us, I think even Batman Arkham Knight is on there, which now that we're outside, I think that game came out in 2015. There was a lot of poo-pooing on that game back then, but now you can experience it outside of the, because there was expectations, and obviously like the 2 Arkham games before that were just excellent. So tough to live up to that, but you can experience all those games outside of all the crap. You just play the games for like what they are, man. I'm jealous about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, and from my end of things too, like I was out of video games for so long that like there's so many games during that period that like I have both physical copies, Last of Us and Last of Us 2. Like I have those, in wrappers. I'm gonna play them, but I haven't got to them yet, right?
I need to save myself an oops because I think Frozen Wilds was the DLC. I think Forbidden West is the sequel on Horizon. I think I might have messed that up. But anyways,
okay, yeah.
I don't know if you're keeping. Somebody just tweeted me and they're like, I shouldn't have tweeted them.
Somebody's keeping track. But yeah, I mean,
sorry,
there's a bunch of good stuff on there to play. Like, I mean, I think I paid Canadian. It was like $80 for the year.
Yeah,
and I mean, I think now you can get them all. You can get it for like
just went on sale.
Like $40.
Yeah, just picked up a year.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's totally worth it, especially if you haven't played any of those games like myself. I mean, I missed pretty much all of the PS4.
That's kind of the best of them, man. Like, there's not a whole lot outside of that you really like. Those are kind of almost must plays. But is it almost like there's so many of them, and also it's not like there's nothing coming out now? Like there's a ton of games now, so it's like, okay, well, thanks for the instant backlog, PlayStation. I don't know if you really have any intent on going back, or if you're just playing what's new or what.
Yeah, I mean, I that's the thing, right? Like I have those physical copies with the intention of going back, but for me, it's mainly just for the multiplayer that I got PS Plus. But I'm sure there'll be a game or two that I end up dipping into.
Oh man, they're so good. There's excellent games, dude. Oh my! Have you played The Last of Us?
I haven't played either of them, and that's the thing. Like I literally bought the PS4.
Oh my god! What about Uncharted? Have you played the Uncharted games? Holy crap! I'm the Xbox guy, and I'm sitting here going like, you got must plays to get to on PlayStation.
I mean, and that's the thing. Like, I need to play more games because I almost like that whole generation and missing that.
Oh, that's awesome.
A whole set of games in there that I really need to play to be able to speak to, right?
Yeah, no doubt. Okay, well, I won't pile on the guilt too much there, other than to say I'm kind of jealous of this. You can play these so fresh. The last thing that I wanted to ask you about was about the podcast and your co-host. Who is this co-host, and where did you find him? And are you guys friends since you were 2 years old, or did you just meet? Did you find each other on the street going, you play video games too? We should start a podcast. What's that all about?
Yeah, so the co-host that I do the show with is Matt Cariotti. So he actually joined us the last couple weeks. He's Cheeseburger or Big Mac.
Oh, sick!
So we actually met just recently. His daughter is a month older than mine, so like 8.5 months. So we're new dads.
Yeah, and
we met through our wives / fiancés, and we just kind of started talking about gaming, and then. I just had said to him, hey, why don't we just start talking about what we're playing?
That's the best.
And what's kind of going on. So it just kind of, the relationship is kind of grown from there. But I mean, we're still trying to find like our flow, because
for sure
we don't have, when you start a podcast with somebody that you don't really know, maybe for 20 or 30 years, like since you were little, right? You have to kind of build a rapport with that person and get a bit of a flow going. So that's kind of what we're working on right now to get going, but it's been good so far. I mean, he's got a different type of games that he's into. I mean, he likes to play the Marvel games. He was sending me Dragon Ball Z stuff today, so I mean,
how did that land?
So for me, I'm not a big Dragon Ball Z guy.
That's what I gathered.
Yeah. But I had said to him, I said, listen, I'm like, I will look at it. Like,
I love it.
Looks interesting. Why not? I mean, take a look at it. Like, he just sent me an article, and I was like, I don't know anything about this. Why not just read it and see what's going on?
Hey, it's good for the pod.
Somebody loves it, right? Yeah. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So.
Oh my gosh, I love it, man. Well, dude, this has been. I can't believe how fast time is flying by. I know it's late out there. Do you want to let people know where they can find you and your podcast and everything, what it's called, and any links you want to share at the end here?
Yeah, for sure. So you can find me on Twitter at JLA_15. So JLA_15. And the podcast is Royal City Gaming. So you can find us on Twitter at Royal City Gaming. And it's Royal City Gamescast on Apple Podcast and Spotify and Anchor.
Very cool, man. Well, thank you so much for carving out time. I'm sure we'll be having you back on to celebrate the various milestones of your family and everything that's going on there and the podcast and everything. And let me know if you ever need anything, dude. It's a wild journey, both in parenting and podcasting and all this stuff, man. But I'm here for you. I got Pokemon. I got Riders Republic. I got Guardians of the Galaxy. I've got Halo multiplayer. Maybe a review coming up pretty soon. We'll see. I don't actually know any details right now, but we'll see. Maybe Halo. Tons of games, you guys, is what I'm trying to say. And yet I still went on the eShop and the Xbox and all the things to like not miss out on these deals. What the heck? How did I not talk about this at the beginning of the show? What games have you guys been picking up on these sales? Have you been treating yourself? Because a wise man once told me, if you don't treat yourself, you cheat yourself. That man was at Fan Expo when Luke, Laura, and I were guests when we were doing the Xbox Drive together. And he encouraged Luke to get that Sea of Thieves backpack. He paid dollars for that. I'll say that. I don't remember exactly how much, but it wasn't cheap. He paid dollars. And then they gave a Sea of Thieves backpack to everybody, every one of us who was there. Anyways, sorry, Luke. Hopefully, you know what? I think I'm going to have Luke on the show pretty soon here. Luke and I have been chatting. That's been pretty awesome. I hope you guys are great. Thank you, Jordan, for being on the show. If you guys enjoyed this, you can follow me on Twitter at Sean Capri, Sean like Connery, Capri like the pants. All the links to follow Jordan are in the show notes. And yeah, man, go to youtube.com/Yumi Capri. Leave a comment on how it all went. What you think? Did you like it? Patreon.com/Yumi Capri. Early access. You get Sweet Hangs. It's exclusive. You get Yumi Capri, the podcast. That's exclusive. You get Pants Patreon podcast for Patrons podcast. That's exclusive. It's in the name. You get the War Room, which is the console War Room. Me and Bad Bit going at it. We did one episode that was on We the GamerCast a couple of weeks ago. That's gonna be exclusive to either Patreon. Same thing with Sweet Hangs, by the way. You can go to patreon.com/PSVG for that. Patreon.com/PS Trophy Room or patreon.com/Yumi Capri. You get it all here, man. I'm really excited because after the campaign for Halo comes out, Babbitt and I are gonna have a little chit chat. We're gonna have a chin wag. I'm gonna discover what has he been doing this whole time as a trophy room, as a PlayStation podcast host, when he's really an Xbox person, an Xbot. And I even tripped over the Xbox. It's just such a stupid word. Be good to each other. I hope you guys spread joy. Say hi to somebody. Check in. I'm trying to do the same thing because Jonathan Brown, you inspire me to do this, man. You, Ed Placencia, a couple of you guys have really inspired me. Check in on your friends. Be good to each other. We'll see you guys next week. Okay, bye-bye.
Jason! 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 Sean! 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 Sean, where are you? Jason! 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 Sean! 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 Jason! 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 Jason!